Hello everyone. It's me, Chaff Commander Coffee, and I'm here to give a little bit of a summary video of how this game has gone, and to go over some of the aspects of the game, explain some of the decision making, how it's worked out so far for us, and just generally where you might go from here. I don't think playing longer. We're already 300 turns in. I don't think playing longer will make for much of a tutorial. It will more become just me playing the game. Since from this point onwards, there's the game will become more fluid. It's more. It will require more adapting to different aspects cropping up as and when they do. It's even happened a little bit already with the Franks declaring war on us, unexpected things like that. So let's start off. We appeared on the map, and as far as a capital spot goes, coastal with no resources. 3 food resources, but no production resources. Most people would look at this cap spot and say, it's alright. It's not that great. It's fine, but it's not that good. And I would tend to agree. But has that stopped us from doing very well? No, it hasn't really stopped us. Don't try and just re-roll a map until you get the perfect cap spot. It's you become a better player just by learning to play with what you're given. Even on the higher difficulties, I very rarely re-roll a map if my cap spot is terrible. I just run with it. If you lose the game, it's a learning experience. So you get better by playing more regularly and playing with what you're given. If you're given all of the answers, then you don't have to come up with your own. So it's not so good to practice. So our cap spot's fine. We're on a lot of plains, so maybe that's not quite as good as it could have been. With a bunch of food resources, you'd want more grasslands, so you could build more cottages and utilize the commerce bonus from that for a tech lead. We have a bit of a tech lead anyway because we're just that good. Our early scouting revealed that we had 2 neighbors. We had the Dravidians down here, the Incans up here. We didn't scout west. We didn't see any civs to the west. We didn't really see any barbarians either. So these were our closest neighbors. So we identified our closest neighbors. We identified good spots for cities. Now, given our closest neighbors were to the east, our first city we built to our east to set up a border and start improving that city and building it up so it became a bit more of a powerhouse. As an expansionist civ, so we're going to be playing to our strengths here. As an expansionist civ, our settlers are faster to build. So we focused on building settlers in the early game. And setting up our sort of initial 4 cities. Honestly, this city down here, not that productive. That's why I wasn't too bothered that it got destroyed by the Frankish raid. This city is more for cultural propagation along this southern coast, and also to allow us a spot to put it's got a lot of food, so it'll have high trade value. It'll have lots of specialists. It's a good city to build settlers in, which we can then put on our ships and start colonizing in the south here. So that's more the purpose of this city. It wasn't built as a way of increasing our early advantage. And some of the cities you build won't be. Some cities will be purely to acquire a resource, even if the land around them is kind of crappy. And other cities you'll build as more cultural diffusers, to give you borders. This is more of one of those cities, and also to act as a slingshot to build other things further elsewhere on the map. So this chain of islands around here, particularly quite nice actually. You've got some luxury resources we don't have access to, some strategic resources. There's iron down there. So a lot of good land here that no one's going to contest. So we could have built quite a few settlements to go down there as the game progressed. So we have some options for colonization if we didn't want to declare war on any of our neighbors. I mean, we'd probably be doing both at the same time. There's nothing stopping us. So that's sort of discussing the value of that city. This city acquired some strategic resources. We got access to horses and elephants in our borders nice and quickly. It also acted as a cultural buffer against the Dravidian capital here, which is why we built the Oracle in this city. It provides some extra culture. The Oracle is not like a wonder I would recommend rushing, because the purpose of the Oracle is it gives a free tech. Sure, that's not like it's not amazing. It's fine. It doesn't do anything particularly special. A free tech is a free tech. Um, you trade production in a city for research per turns. It takes roughly around the same time. It gives you a great profit, so I suppose that's nice. But generally speaking, the Oracle's just sort of like a fill-in. It's like a filler wonder. It's a wonder you build if you've got nothing better to do. But we did need some culture to try push these borders back. But the most important city was this city. This city probably ended up being more important than our capital. Um, Resource-wise, much in the same spot as our capital. A couple of food resources, nothing special. Um, some hills for some production. So not actually that exciting, really. Our lands are very food heavy without much production, so not that exciting in terms of what we could build. But we got our religion to found in this city. Now it's very difficult to force a religion to found in a certain city. So I wouldn't try to manipulate the game to do that. If it was just nice that it did. The important thing was that we built the Nazca lines here. It was an early wonder that provides a bonus to our unique improvement. So again, you want to play to your strengths. We have a unique farm. The Nazca line means that our unique farm provides extra food, so that's going to allow our cities to grow much larger. It also provided a lot of culture. And the culture was useful for pushing back the Incas' borders. So these two cities here were primarily for making sure that we had enough of a border buffer against the other civs that we could sort of project ourselves and get our armies closer to their cities, and also stop them from sending scouts and troops and settlers beyond our borders and being a nuisance. So that's primarily what the city allowed us to do: project our cultural borders, and also provide a useful wonder. On top of that, once it founded a religion, it became this is probably more a capital of our civilization than our actual capital. I might even consider, if we're expanding further east, this is actually a better spot for a capital as well, because it's more central. So it would actually be a decent idea to actually move the palace to this city. So yeah, makes sense. It's also a bigger city as well. So there you go. That's some considerations that we might take for the future, but also taking a look at why we made the decisions that we did. Now, why did we attack the Incas? Well, frankly, as we discovered we founded a holy religion. Our holy city was here. We spread Judaism to our neighbors in the south, who were already quite friendly to us. Their personality of the leader was obviously more of a friendly one. We got open borders with them. Because of that, they're sort of a natural ally. And spreading a religion to them just sort of solidifies that. So we have a natural ally to our south, which means we don't need to worry too much about more warmongering nations like the Mongolians, who are also to our south, because these guys will be in the way. So, naturally, with the Vikings being further from our borders than the Incans, they make the most sense to attack. And as a militaristic nation, we get higher logistics, we get better units. It makes sense. On top of that, a lot of our ability to perform very well in that war was because of our unique units, which we got from philosophy, the Sereni Pacha Yodaha. These guys are very good against archers, so they're very good at attacking cities early on in the game. They don't require any special resources. We didn't have any access to special resources, so it's a very helpful unit. But again, play to your strengths. This is one of our strengths. We have a unique unit who's very good at fighting archers. early on in the game, so make use of it. It allowed us to take out an entire civilization off the back of that unit because they're that good against archers. And by being able to get rid of that civ, we've created more of a border with our neighbors that we're not necessarily on good terms with, in this case the Armenians. We have a gap between our lands, so they're going to be less inclined to declare war on us, especially since they seem to be at war with the Mauritanians quite regularly. So they're less of a threat. And also we've got some more room we can expand to a lot more peacefully. So that's also an advantage. So some breathing room. And also getting rid of a competitor as well. So yes, the Incas did convert to Judaism, which is quite helpful. We could have kept them as an ally, but honestly, I think at the time, we hadn't explored these islands down here. So at the time, it made sense to get some additional land to expand into, and that's something you have to consider. Perhaps in hindsight, if we were to play another 300 or 1,000 turns, we might think back to ourselves and go, "Damn, I wish I had the Incans as an ally to our east." Because of all these islands, we can just expand down here. We don't even need to worry about the Incans. But we may also look back in hindsight in 1,000 turns and think, "Yep, that was definitely the right call." We can't know. We can't know. My gut feeling is that getting rid of the Incans, it was a simple war. It wasn't difficult. It hardly cost us anything to pursue it, and we got a lot out of it. We got a capital spot. Got a nice capital spot as well. Good for commerce, great river access. So it's going to be quite a large and wealthy city. The city of Gwalior here isn't that bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. So we got two decent cities out of it without having to expand our borders or stretch ourselves too thin. So that's good. We've got a nice, very experienced army. This army could absolutely kick the crap out of most other civs for the next 100 to 200 turns, and I would intend on using them that way. What I would probably do is, given that the Franks have proven themselves to dislike us a lot, they've already declared war on us and burnt down one of our cities, what I would probably do is take this army, march it all the way to the west, and just burn down the Franks' capital. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Well, we have a powerful army. We should use it. The Mauritanians are currently, whilst they are the second most powerful civ in the game, they're very far away from us, and they're currently fighting our neighbour. So they're actually good for us. It's good that the Mauritanians exist. So we don't want to go and mess them up. We could go and get rid of the Mongolians, which wouldn't be too difficult, and it would allow our allies, the Chola Empire, to try and expand a lot more peacefully. In fact, they might even go to war with the Armenians. So another option for us, which is something I would consider, is coming down and getting rid of the Mongolians down here. Possibly even taking their capital for ourselves. Might cause a bit too much border friction, so, probably just burn it down. But the option is there. Aside from that, this army would most likely want to head west, take out the Frankish city here, move up, take out the Frankish capital, and return to our lands to regroup. After that, probably want to use what little time we have left with the forces, whilst they have an advantage, probably take out the Vikings, because that would give us even more territory to expand west. We could grab these three cities here, which would give us a nice border against everything to further west. We get access to copper, so we can get bronze. Bronze gives us access to better units. Once we have discovered iron, except we don't have any in our borders. If we wanted to grab iron, we would probably have to take a city up here, which is a bit crappy, but this city would eventually get cultural borders to get that iron, so yeah, we would want to focus on expanding to these three cities here. We also have the option of grabbing iron down in the south here, which is another perfectly reasonable choice. So we do have a lot of ways we could expand, but I think the most productive way to expand would be probably helping our ally get rid of the Mongolians quickly. That wouldn't take very long. That would literally just be a quick jaunt to the south and just smash their capital down. And then moving west to deal with the Franks and the Vikings. And our army is more than enough. We've got 2 more Sereni Patrias over here, so we've got 2 more excellent troops to deal with archers there, and we've got a nice big force over here as well. So we've got about a dozen, maybe 2. We could probably build up the army a bit larger, get about 20 units, and that would be more than enough to deal with both of those civs. Because again, as far as warfare is concerned, you want to be able to take cities. Cities are what you're aiming for. It requires a lot more of an understanding of how the AI functions to focus on fighting armies out in the field, which is also a dangerous thing to do if you don't have access to charge cavalry or war elephants. We do have access to both of those things, so it is possible that I could build armies specifically for fighting out in the field, and I probably would do that as well as the game went on, which would involve having a force of 1 or 2 war elephants, possibly just the one, couple of charge cavalry, some recon skirmisher units because they're very good at attacking as well, and then some defensive units like a couple of spearmen. And you'd want about 9 troops to follow that sort of, maybe like an axeman, an axeman or 2. Depends if our axemen are good at attacking cities or not. Certain nations have good axemen for attacking cities. As you can see, our axemen are very good at attacking cities. Other civilizations have axemen that are good at attacking melee units. So you do have to make the distinction there. We could get some swordsmen as well. Our swordsmen are good versus melee units, not good at attacking cities, so we'd probably use some Gupta swordsmen and some Mauryan cavalry. These are sort of the 2 units you would use to fight stacks. So we'd need to get armor crafting and a source of iron. We could get a source of iron once we've cleaned this up, so any stack wiping armies would probably build to handle the Armenians or the Mauritanians as the game progresses. As far as winning the game goes, this is something you do need to consider at all stages of the game. We've already wiped out 1 civ, right? It wouldn't take us too much effort to get rid of the Mongolians. So that's 2 civs out of the game already. There are only 9 civs, including ourselves. One of them is our ally, so we don't need to worry about getting rid of them anytime soon. It looks like the Armenians aren't doing too well against the Mauritanians, so that's a war we can sort of leave to their own devices. Getting rid of the Vikings wouldn't be too difficult, but since they've been fighting the Frankish and not doing too well, the Macedonians have been fighting the Frankish and not doing too well. You see what I'm saying. If we got rid of the Mongolians, we got rid of the Macedonians, we got rid of the Franks and the Vikings. The Incans are already gone. That's 5 civs. 5. There are 9 civs in the game. We are one of them. So that's 6 civs accounted for on a conquest victory. And that's only like 500 turns into the game. Because it would take this army 10 turns to come down here and wipe them out. Rally up with some troops here. March over to the Macedonians, wipe them out. March up to the Franks, destroy their capital. March over to the Vikings, wipe them out. Then we just need to build up a bit of a force, finish off the Franks. You're looking at 500 turns in the game, and there would only be the Polish, the Armenians, the Mauritanians, that's 3, the Chola, who are our allies, and ourselves. So I think the Polish may have risen up as a barbarian state. It looks like the Vikings used to own territory down here, so I think this might have been a barbarian city that's now formed into the Polish. I'm not 100% sure on that. That can happen. Barb cities can form civilizations if you leave them alone long enough. Separatism will also cause new civilizations to appear. So whilst we start the game with 9 civs, we might end the game with 18 civs. It depends how long the game goes on for. But yeah, we're really not that far off of a full conquest victory. It's not that difficult, honestly, when you think about it. And we are a good civ for trying to push for a conquest victory, sort of by the medieval period, pre-gunpowder. Because all of our unique units are roughly around that sort of time. Once we get plate armor, we get access to the Parta warriors, and also the Kshatriya, which we don't need a civic to get, so we can just immediately go straight for plate armor. In fact, that's probably what I'd do after getting the sort of after getting rudder and guilds. I'd probably go straight for plate armor and just like really focus on just deleting other civs in the game. Probably grab plate armor then mechanics. I think plate armor you might need mechanics for that. Mill machinery, yeah, you do. Well, you need mill machinery, you don't need mechanics. So go like plate armor mechanics. Get trebuchet. Just start, really messing up the other civs. That's what I'd do. Since conquest victory is how we're going to win the game. Right. That's more or less all I need to talk about. I think I've covered the strategy that we followed, that we pursued, how it worked out, how it didn't. The one thing that didn't work out was obviously the Franks declaring war on us and sending an army down to go raid one of our cities. Nothing personal. We had a weakly defended city. They had an army in the area, I guess, probably fighting barbarians or maybe attacking the Vikings, or they'd just finished attacking the Vikings. And it's easy plunder. It's like a good 100 plus gold. It weakens one of your potential competitors. Don't worry too much when that happens. Just beat up the army that came to attack you and build the city again. If you want to avoid the AI doing that, you want about 3 city defenders. Generally speaking, you want a couple of archers and a unit of spearmen in case they have cavalry. That should be more than enough to handle most AI attacks. Cultural border size 2 gives you 15% city defense. If you're really worried, you can stick up a palisade. They don't take very long to build, especially if you have access to prime timber. You can set them up in about 3 or 4 turns. So yeah, that should do the trick. And if you do lose a city to the AI, you do have to decide. Or are the AI trying to expand into your lands, or are they just trying to, set you back a little bit? In our case, they just set us back a little bit, so it's not like end of the world. If they decided to keep that city and they sent more troops to try to keep it and push us back, we would have to go into total war mode, where we just build troops and nothing but troops. We take the city back, and then we'd have to chase them back into their own lands and knock one of their cities down. Because you've got to. It's the Machiavellian way of approaching things. You if you wound someone, you have to wound them enough that they can't stand back up and stab you back. What the Frankish did was they wounded us. They stuck a dagger in our side, but we can get back up from that. That's not a serious wound. Once we attack the Franks, we're going to hit them so hard, we're going to knock out their capital and possibly another city on our way back. They're not going to be able to recover from it. There's no way they'll be able to recover from it. We will always be ahead of them after doing that. So, and I fully recommend, if you're going to bother to go to war with a civ, and you think to yourself, this civ is now my enemy, they are my target, I will destroy them, right? I'm quite a warmonger when it comes to Civ. If you've watched my other Realism Invictus videos, you know that I am a warmonger. And it's a good thing, right? It is a good thing. a lot of people play Civ and they focus on building a lot. Nothing has stopped us from building multiple wonders and also destroying another Civ. Nothing has stopped us from doing that. Don't worry too much about just building. If all you do is build, someone's going to come along and take your city, right? If I was just focusing on building, I wouldn't have this army or this army to take back Benares and stop the Franks. They would have waltzed into my lands, destroyed my improvements. They would have had a field day, and they might have even taken another city, and that would have just been end of the world. But yes, if you decide that a Civ is your enemy, pursue the war to its finality. That's what you need to do. You know, we decided the Incas were our enemy. We got the cities that we wanted. Did we stop? Did we stop after taking the cities we wanted? We didn't. Why didn't we? Because the Incas would never forgive us for capturing their capital. If we left them there and went on to go fight the Mongols and went off to go fight the Franks, they would build an army and they would take their capital back whilst our army was abroad. So we needed to crush them utterly. So there was no chance that they could come back and mess up our plans. And that is what you've got to do. If you decide that a Civ is your enemy and you go to war with them and you capture their cities and you knock down their cities, you need to finish them off completely. Otherwise, they'll just come back. And when they come back, the AI doesn't mess around in Realism Invictus. They build armies that are capable of taking cities. And they will take those cities back. It's not like normal Civ, where they'll send like 2 or 3 units and just like walk around your lands, plunder a few improvements, and then die. In Realism Invictus, if the AI wants to take a city, they will build an army that is capable of taking that city. Because they'll know how many troops you have. The AI likes to build spies. And they'll find out how many garrison troops you have, and they will build. So, for example, if we left them with these 2 cities, and Cuzco had 2 defenders, and we moved these guys down to fight the Mongolians, they would go, they have 2 defenders, and it has a defense value. I'll build a couple of rams, I'll build 4 or 5 swordsmen, and about 3 archers, right? 8 units. And those 8 units will absolutely crush the city defense, and they'll probably move on to take this one as well. And by the time I'd mustered a force to defend against it, we'd only just be able to hold Priaga. So don't give the AI the option of bouncing back. If you're gonna put them in the ground, put them 6 feet under. Don't dig the AI a shallow grave, because they'll claw their way back out. And I fully recommend you do exactly the same thing, because that's what the Franks did. The Franks came in, they took one of our cities, they burned it down, but that's all they did. They didn't do enough damage to really stop us. And now you have to repay them in kind, because the AI has in the way that they function, they've thought to themselves, right, the player is a target, so I need to attack them. And now that that's in their brain, in the AI's sort of functioning, we are always a target. We've ticked the box of being a target. The Dravidians have always been our friend, so that box hasn't been ticked, so they don't consider us an enemy. They won't build an army to go fight us. They'll find other people who they consider more likely to be targets. We haven't gone to war with the Vikings yet, so the Vikings don't consider us a target yet, but we're not friendly with them, so we could be. We're on the list of maybes. But the Franks, we are firmly on the list of is an enemy, yes. And the only way we could change that is if we converted them to our religion. That is about the only way we could change it, and even then I wouldn't trust them. Once the AI's decided to go to war with you, consider them your foe. For all intents and purposes, for the remainder of the game. So there you go. Right, I think that's about everything I needed to cover. Hope this has been informative. At least in some degrees, it should help you decide how to approach your own games of Realism Invictus. This is just, again, the early game. But the early game's the important bit. This is the foundation. And that's what a tutorial is about. A tutorial is about the foundation. Um, as the game progresses, you'll realize separatism becomes more of an issue. The best way to handle separatism, I've found, 20% on espionage. And you might be thinking, that is a lot of my income to be going on espionage. Yes, but it's also useful because once you have a high enough espionage, you can see city visibility. I can see what the AI has in their cities, and eventually you'll be able to see what the AI is building in their cities. So now I can see that they're building a spy. This is very useful because it allows you to see what wonders the AI are building, and if they're building armies, where they're moving those armies. Information is how you win wars. Why declare war on a civilization where, if I declared war on the Chola and I didn't know that they had, so say I could see the city defenders. I could see these 3 units. I go, oh yeah, 3 archers, no problem for my guys. But I didn't know that they had these 2 units nearby. I might not send enough troops, and then I might lose to that particular attack. Or I wouldn't know that their capital had 7 units in it, for example. So these are espionage is useful beyond just keeping the separatism down. But as a general rule of thumb, about three city defenders should be more than enough to both deter the AI and also keep separatism levels fairly low. You will need to get more than 3, but not until much later in the game. Not until like the Renaissance or the Industrial period. Another way to keep separatism low is to focus on building cultural buildings. Anything that produces culture, primarily build them in newly conquered cities or in cities that are along your borders. Cities like let's say Gwalior. Gwalior here. We captured this city, so culture is obviously important to keep the separatism levels down low. But once we've flipped its culture, it's not going to be bordering anyone, so it's never going to have separatism issues from culture again. So the only separatism issues it will have are from population, and well, that's about it actually. And it's not going to be a particularly large city, so this is going to be a very easy city to keep control of. And like, for example, Priaga, now that we've actually beaten the Incans, this city will also not really have any separatist issues because it's not going to have to fight culture with anyone. Its culture is actually, if anything, going to cause separatist issues in our neighbours' lands. That's another thing the espionage is useful for. If you want to cause separatist uprisings, just foment rebellions in your opponent's territory, and they'll have to constantly deal with separatist uprisings. So that's another way you can get rid of people, which is very helpful. Very helpful. Yeah. Also, making sure that your cities don't grow when they're unhealthy and unhappy is another easy way of avoiding separatism. Unhappy and unhealthy people cause a lot of separatist issues. So try to keep your people happy and healthy at all times. The more espionage a city produces, the more it reduces separatism. So if you do find you're having separatist issues, things like even something as simple as a tavern is an early way of handling some separatist problems. Another good one is the Ishtar Gate. The Ishtar Gate provides 2 espionage to all walls that you build. So walls then help to reduce separatism as well. So yes, also consider that. The most efficient way to reduce separatism is just simply having more defenders in the city. More city defenders equals lower separatism. But that becomes less effective the further you get in the game, as different modifiers will affect what causes separatism, and that is one of them. I think it's during the Renaissance, units have half the effect on reducing separatism. So keep that in mind. Anyway, as always, guys, It's been me, Chav Come on a Coffee. Thanks for watching. I hope this has been informative and has helped you understand a little bit more about Realism Invictus and how you can apply these strategies and some of the tips that I've shown you to your own games. I hope your games go swimmingly because of that. Again, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments or join the Discord, which you can find from the YouTube page in the About section, where you can ask me directly questions about Civ or just other things in general. We've got a few people. It's not like the biggest Discord in the world. Obviously, some people just like to watch the videos. Some people like to get involved with the community as a whole. For those of you that have watched this, I am going to continue doing some Magic Cube drafts for the foreseeable future or the immediate future, whilst M21 is being is coming out, and then I'm going to be doing M21 drafts and pack openings and such once that has released. And I also have EU4, the new DLC for EU4. Particularly the Anbanar mod, which is a fantasy total conversion. It's a very, very good. It's very well done. Lots of custom scripts, its own lore, different races, mechanics on how they work, magic. It's an incredible system that they've managed to build for it. And I very much enjoyed playing it in the past. I'll be playing that on stream. I'll post an update on the channel when exactly I'm going to do that. But hopefully, you guys come along for the stream to see that for yourselves. I may also be doing another stream for Realism Invictus. I did one about a month ago now. It was a challenge where I had no offensive wars. It actually hurt me inside to do a challenge like that, but we almost got right to the end of the tech tree. We were doing a space race. I could have finished the game. It was just dragging on far too long. It really did drag on. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you around. Stay safe during the quarantine. Make sure you're indoors and playing Civ, and you'll have no problems. So, until next time, have a good one.